at the Secretlab Magnus Pro desk, I came across the Xtreme standing desk. Just like the Secretlab one, it has an integrated light strip, a built-in cable management tray, and provides magnetic cable anchors. But what really sweetened the deal was the fact that it only costed around $600, while the Secretlab desk starts at $900. Since I don't have a lot of money to spend back then, I eventually decided to take my chances and go with this desk instead. And I thought it would be helpful to share more information about this desk, so there will not be as much ambiguity when you are deciding whether or not to buy this Xtreme desk. So without any more delay, let's get into it. The cable management system uses a hinge design with a flap, and this is the same as the Secretlab one. The flap opens up nice and wide, and I have no issues with accessing all the plugs inside. However, in order to rotate and open the flap completely, there needs to be at least 7 cm of space between the desk and the wall. Because if it is any lesser than this, you risk the flap scratching your wall if you were to open the flap too quickly. Now the tray is made of metal, so you can actually use magnetic anchors inside it. The width of the cable management tray was pretty adequate. I didn't find it to be too cramped whatsoever. I was able to fit my 8TB hard drive inside it without a problem, and I was also able to place a power brick and a bunch of thick wires that are coiled up together, and they were able to fit side by side without much issue. Even after placing the power strip inside the tray, there was still some space at the top, and I was able to run some cables alongside the power strip. The height of the tray is adequate, but I think I would hope for it to go just a little bit deeper. And the reason is because it becomes a problem for me when I was trying to use multi-plugs and smart plugs. Since they add extra height to each socket, I wasn't able to close the flap when I have a few of them stacked together. Because I use quite a lot of smart plugs in my workflow, I ended up getting a power strip instead, so I can eliminate the excessive height that those smart plugs add. And because the opening of the cable management system is from the top, it will be better to use plugs that have USB ports at the back instead of those that have it at the bottom. Otherwise, the cable has to bend at an uncomfortably narrow angle in order to exit the opening, and over time this may cause the cable housing to fray more easily. Because of all these issues that arise from this hinge type of cable management system, I do sometimes miss my previous clamp-on cable tray, which has an open design and allows cables to run more freely, and I can stack as many plugs that I want on top of each other. Not only that, there is a major downside to having this hinge design, which is what I will cover in the next part. The tabletop of the Xtreme desk is made of wood, and I think this is one of the main areas where Ulti is saving costs on, especially when compared to the steel tabletop on the Secretlab desk. This means that unlike the Secretlab desk, the magnetic anchors on this desk cannot be used at every area of it and can only be used at the top parts of the tabletop, where there is a thin piece of magnetic panel for you to guide the cables as they exit out of the opening of the cable management system. The magnets on the anchors are plenty strong and they don't come off or slide easily. The gap within it is rather spacious as well, as it can fit 2 thinner cables, or it can also fit a single thick HDMI cable. Underneath the magnetic panel is where the RGB light strip is hidden, and the magnetic panel is kept in place by magnets that are embedded into the tabletop. I have to say that the magnetic panel does not sit in place very well, and they do slide relatively easily whenever I try to, say, mount an attachment on it. If the attachment is heavy or tightened quite tightly, one end of the magnet strip tends to be lifted up. So I do hope that Ulti can come up with some ways to secure this magnetic panel more effectively, so I don't have to readjust them whenever I try to clamp an accessory onto it. Now, the tabletop comes in 2 sizes, 1.4 meters and 1.6 meters. In terms of texture, there is a grainy feel to it and doesn't feel cheap at all. I love that my mouse could glide on it really well without being too slippery. So it kind of provided the right amount of friction, and therefore I didn't really need to use a mouse pad. Regardless of which size you choose, both will have a fixed width of 76 centimeters. But there is something really important that I need you to consider here. Because of the hinge design at the back, each time you need to adjust the plugs, anything that sits on the flap will have to be removed, and because of that, I find myself being really hesitant to lay anything on the flap itself. But when I avoid putting anything on the flap, there ends up being very little usable space on the desk. If you're someone who swap out your accessories on your desk relatively frequently, then this becomes an extremely frustrating and annoying issue that I faced. I find myself having to slide my desk riser forward repeatedly when I want to open up the flap. And this becomes so annoying to the point where I just went from the back of the desk instead to adjust the cables and plugs. I also stopped running my cables through the top opening and I just run it through the back of the desk instead. However, there are still times when it is absolutely necessary to open the flap, such as when you want to mount an attachment to the top of the desk, for example your monitor arm or your maybe like a Elgato pole or something. Speaking of monitor arms, my monitor arm from ULTIDESK was able to mount onto this desk, but the tolerance is a little tight as the HDMI cables tend to get caught sometimes, and therefore preventing the flap from closing fully. And because of the flap at the back, you have to mount your monitor arm slightly forward. This becomes an issue when you have a desk riser because the riser also has to sit more forward, thus eating up some of the usable space on your desk while leaving some wasted space at the back. While you can certainly place the monitor arm further to the corner so that the desk riser can be flush backwards completely, but because my monitor arm has limited reach, it cannot go as far left as I would have liked it to go. This hinge cable management system is something that I thought was really cool at first, but never would I have expected myself to hate this feature so much because of how much frustration it has led to. And since the lower part of the tabletop is chamfered as well, the actual usable surface area of the desk is actually even smaller. If you're thinking of clamping some desk attachments to the bottom edge of the table, then that is not really possible because you cannot really mount anything to a sloping surface. However, it is very comfortable for my arm to rest on this chamfered surface, and whether this sort of design is a value add to you really comes down to your personal preference and whether or not you mount headphone or cup holders at the bottom part of the desk. I actually hope that the light was controlled by the controller on the desk itself, because I'm someone who don't like to have an additional mobile app on my phone just for the sake of controlling the lights on my desk. Thankfully, the lights are indeed controlled by the desk controller, and unfortunately because it is controlled from the desk itself, it also means that it will not be able to output the full RGB spectrum. Because to do that, you'll need a more sophisticated interface for finer control of the colors, such as through a mobile application. With this light strip, however, you only get 4 light modes. One is the solid effect, where the light is constant, and to change color, you basically just hold down the 1 button and it will cycle through the different colors slowly. Just let go of the button when you're at the right color that you want, then release it and press the M button to confirm your selection. The second mode is the gradient effect, where different colors will fade in over time. The third one is the single color breathing effect, where a single color will fade in and out repeatedly. The fourth one is the multicolor gradient effect, which is the one that you have been seeing most of the time throughout this video. The last one is the gradient multicolor breathing effect, where the light will fade in and out each time with a slightly different shade or hue. However, I have to mention that the light strip actually started producing flickers after I used it for a few weeks. And I thought this was because my heavy duty monitor arm and my 34-inch monitor was compressing on it too hard. So I then contacted ULTIDESK support and they sent me some sort of control box to fix it on my own. Although they did not send me any instructional video or guidance, I was able to fix it after taking about 30 minutes to figure it out. The fact that the lighting could work again without actually needing to replace the light strip, which I thought was compressed. I think the flickering issue might not be due to the compression on the light strip. Maybe it's just the control box that had some issue, although I'm not really sure what's going on as well. But I now err on the safer side and I try not to clamp my mouse too hard on the magnetic panel area, knowing that the light strip is sitting directly underneath it. The motors are pretty quiet and the table elevates pretty quickly in my opinion. I couldn't find the weight capacity and motor speed of this desk on their website, so I texted ULTIDESK customer support and they said that it can hold up to 130 kg of weight and the motor speed is about 38 millimeters per second. Personally, the motor speed is something that I'm not fussy about because I don't mind waiting just a few more seconds. And I doubt I will ever put more than 100 kg of weight on this desk, so I think the motor's capability fits my needs just right. I've seen many YouTubers rocking and shaking their sit-stand desk vigorously when they try to test out the stability of their desk. I find that to be a little pointless since you are seldom ever going to do that while using the desk. I think most people will simply be typing on their desk most of the time, so I'm going to show you how much wobble there is going to be when typing while seated and while at my comfortable standing height. Personally, I've never really noticed any significant shake while using it, even in standing position, so I highly doubt it will be a concern for most people, unless you intend to use this desk for other purposes other than simple computer work. The controls of this desk is relatively straightforward. You have two memory buttons for you to set the preset height, such as one for standing and one for sitting. You also have the option to set a sedentary reminder, which alerts you when you have been sitting for too long. Next, you can also set the maximum and minimum height of the desk, and I find this to be pretty useful actually. This is because I do teach private tuition as my part-time job, and there was once when my student accidentally pressed the button, which caused the entire desk to descend, and because I had a drawer underneath the desk actually slanted pretty badly and the anti-collision mechanism kicked in and therefore elevated the desk back up. Ever since then, I've configured the minimum desk height to be slightly above the height of my drawer, so I don't risk any damage to the desk or the motors. I did not set any maximum height as my power strip has plenty of excess cable length, so that wasn't a major concern to me. But if your power strip is rather short, or if you have a drilled wall shelf on top of the monitor screen, then setting a maximum height will make a lot of sense. The controller itself lights up according to the color setting that you have set for the light strip, although you also have the option of having only the controller light up but not the light strip. In this case, the controller will only light up if you were to press on it. So after using this desk for about 4 to 5 months, I feel that I would never recommend someone a standing desk with the cable management system that has a hinged design. Does this mean that I don't recommend the ULTIDESK Xtreme standing desk? Well, not really, because even if I were to forsake and not use the hinged cable management system at all, I still do think that I'm getting a lot of value out of this desk. I'm getting the RGB lights, I'm getting the magnetic panel with the magnetic anchors, I'm also getting the full-length cable management tray, and I'm also getting a decent tabletop with decent motors as well. A lot of all these features comes as accessories with other brands, and they are separate purchases that you will have to buy. So I do feel that this desk is suitable for consumers who wants to have flavors of the Secretlab Magnus Pro desk, yet isn't quite ready to shell out $1,000 or more than that for the higher priced Secretlab Magnus Pro. So that's all I have for this video. If you still decided to purchase this desk despite all the disadvantages that I've discussed, I do have an affiliate link in the description below, and if you'd like to support this channel, you could purchase through that link, and this will help me make higher quality videos in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye bye.